So how big is your office?
Beijing, we were bigger. We have 140 people in China.
In Beijing, 140.
140 and 20 people in LA. We have a small studio there.
Where?
In LA, Los
In
Angeles.
LA?
Yes.
I didn't. That's great.
That's a
there?
new. The biggest one is the Lucas Museum. You know, the George Lucas.
Yes.
He built in this quite big building, and almost complete.
Ah.
Yeah, that the project was originally in Chicago. That was a competition, and we won the competition. But they decided to change the city.
So I never taught you in a studio.
I came for the intern for the summer.
Yeah.
That's 2001.
You like baseball? No, Japanese.
No, I'm not Japanese. I'm
No, no, but Japanese like. But you don't like football.
no.
No, you don't like sport.
I know you play.
Yeah.
You had a team. I know softball.
We have a team. Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
I
office.
remember. Yes.
We won all kinds of awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the softball is a
Softball.
different from.
Softball is for women.
Okay.
And
But why you call that? I remember you called
because
that
it
softball.
was when you're playing that you're not pro or amateur,
Okay.
older people, it's too hard to play real baseball for people who are 40 years old, 30 years old. It's a really tough game. So they play with a softball, which is bigger and easier to catch, and you play with a glove. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's for we had a league of let's say Bob Stern, Richard Meyer, Charlie Guathamy, Philip Johnson.
All the famous architects in New York.
Yeah, that's it. And we won the championship 3 times when I was playing. It was a lot of fun. You know, you'd play at 5 o'clock. At 7, go and drink beer. You know, it's fun.
I remember you mentioned that a lot in the office. That was 2001, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
How old are you, by the way? I heard you're 92. Wow. You look very good.
I'm I'm trying.
You have a lot of European projects.
Yeah.
Because the 2 projects I worked on when I was an intern.
Memorial.
Yeah, in Berlin.
And the housing in Berlin.
And the housing I didn't.
Near Checkpoint Charlie.
Okay. But the memorial was really nice, and I visited a couple times.
Seen it there?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I visited several times.
No, it works. For example, I teach at Cornell now.
Yeah.
I have 19 students. 12 are from China. Because the difference between China and Japan is quite a lot. I'm teaching Western architectural history theory.
Yeah.
Japan absorbed Western architecture, like Isozaki, like the guy from Harvard, Kurokawa, Tange. I mean, they were all westernized. China, completely different, is cut off from the West. It's only in the past 10 years that the Chinese influence, and it's very important. I said to people in China, and I have a very different view of it after I've been there, the culture of architecture, not just the building, but the culture has to permeate down through the society. And right now that's happening in China, and the architecture now is very different, let's say, than it was 10 years ago. But before 10 years ago, there was no Western culture, I believe.
20 years. I was a part of it, right? Because I was
You were.
20 years ago. I was one of those young students, they all go to the West to study architecture. And then after I went back, and that was the time when China becomes so urbanized and building a lot. So young architects got some opportunity to do things.
And I think the fact that there's so many Chinese, students, and they want to learn about architecture. Now, what they mean by architecture is Western architecture. And I think the difficulty for you guys now is the young people that we're educating are not prepared for work in Beijing or Shanghai or etc. They're westernized.
Okay. Don't you think Chinese market is also quite used to be quite westernized in last 2 decades? Now it's a little, it's a little different.
In Shanghai, you have the French settlement, the British, the different settlements. And you have, from the 1920s and 30s, backward influences, not avant-garde influence. Now things have changed, I think, in China. There are more avant-garde work. Especially, I think, and I say this quietly, in Taipei. It's easier for an American architect to work in Taipei, Taiwan, than it is to work in, I think, Beijing, Shanghai. And we've been planning this exhibition for 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
They're doing a catalog of there are certainly 29 projects that they're doing. They're doing a catalog of one, the buildings, and the other, the books. I think it's called Unbuilt Eisenman.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not about building, it's about books, designs, etc.
You think this is important, unbuilt work?
I hope. I hope it'll be influential.
Why do you think showing unbuilt work is important to Chinese young people?
I think when you say Chinese young people, then it's, let's say, young people. Okay. Because most of the projects that are unbuilt contain the mature ideas about architecture that I teach. All right. The reason they didn't get built is usually because they were not about what the client wanted, but they were about what I wanted to teach. I have some really good unbuilt projects. Anyway, there are lots of those ideas that are floating around that could be built by Chinese. You could take something and riff on it, take it in a different direction. I'm not going to do it because I'm, not wanting to get back into it. I'm just doing right now books. I just finished last week a book on Alberti, the Roman architect. I'm doing a book on postmodernism. I'm doing a book on 4 architects: Rossi, Ungers, Sterling, Venturi, as the 4 what I call postmodern architects. And then the final book that I'm working on is on formal analysis, the course I used to teach at Yale, that everybody had to take. I'm still teaching it, and Cornell I have to finish through next year. Then they will publish this book, which takes all of my teaching for 25 years at Yale, the kinds of projects, the formal analysis projects that we were doing. And it could be a really interesting book. And it's, for me, important to keep going. I mean, I know a lot.
You feel the idea is more important, right? Yes. You did a lot of drawings. For example, there's unbuilt exhibition, a lot of proposals, drawings. And I think that's quite influential to
Yeah.
young students. Postmodern? That's the sketches in your book?
That's my notebook from 1980.
This sketchbook from 1980.
Now, this book, just 1980.
Okay. How come you are really interested in the classic architecture, postmodern, but you do something really avant-garde?
That's a tough question. This is an existing building that we were doing the plan. I believe in something called precedent. I believe we have to learn. I mean, a reason like I'm doing Alberti. Alberti, 16th century architect, really important. Only did 5 buildings in his life.
I see.
Did 10 books on architecture, very important, radical philosophy of architecture. Okay. I'm studying Alberti's 5 buildings as precedent, and then I want to invent off of that to produce with my students some different buildings, let's say. They're not postmodern. I call the buildings I'm doing post-digital. And for example, we're working with the idea of fragment. And the thing about modern architecture, it was called part to whole, a ratio, harmonic proportions, Le Corbusier, all those things. I'm saying that's gone. And what's important now is that there is no ideality, there is no idea of part. The parts are fragments now, and that we're working with the fragment, which is totally an idea of postmodernism. But we're inventing from the fragment into the future. So what I'm working on in terms of these publications is the architecture of the next wave, let's say. And if I had 20 years, I'd build it. But right now I'm just getting the theory and the drawings out so that I can explain what I'm doing. In 5 years, I'll publish the theory, and then young guys like you and others will build the buildings. That's fine for me.
That surprised me when you say you do exhibition, you want people borrow your idea and designs.
No, I don't want them to follow. I want them to take it and invent off of it.
Yeah.
I don't want them to take my work. No.
20 years ago when I was here, I see several your building under construction, but more drawings like that look like crazy. Like I see this tower at the Hudson, I think, like a twisting tower.
That's
You remember, right? And there's a proposal in Paris also.
Yeah, that was a great project.
I like that project. I remember that.
We should have won that competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that really encouraged young people like me. I thought architecture is to do this kind of.
I published a book on 10 canonical buildings. I published a book on Palladio. I published a book on Le Corbusier. So there's a lot of stuff, but I want to update. That's from 20 years ago. So I want the latest theoretical work that I can do like this in my notebook, okay? And then if it's good, Chinese architects, Japanese architects, Korean architects will use it however. I think I see a lot of me in your work.
Yeah, I
No,
spent some
I
time
do.
with you.
If I were asked, who's the influence on you? I'm one of those.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to say hello, because I think that I've had some influence on you, okay?
Why do you think teaching is so important? Because you continue for many years. I remember when I was school, you invite Philip Johnson came for review.
No, we were very close.
Yeah. Is that for you to organize your idea, theory?
For sure, because you have to, if let's say I'm teaching you today, right? And you said, explain why that drawing.
You have to explain.
It's important to write down, to make drawings. My students have to draw their ideas. Once a week, they have to make a drawing, okay? They have to make it in the style of Borromini or Mies van der Rohe or Corbu, etc., right? And right now, I don't have any models, what we call precedent, for Chinese young architects. I don't have the models that they can invent from that are Chinese. So what's important?
You compare to Japanese.
Compared to Japanese or Italian or German or Russian, etc. There are no Chinese models. And to me, if you wanted to do something important in history, right, is to develop, help to develop Chinese models. Really important. That would be something you could do. And I believe that would be a worthwhile thing to do. It's a wide open field right today for Chinese, because the next Chinese Pritzker is going to come from your generation, and is going to come from people who are inventing a new model for Chinese consumption. That's my belief. And that's why I want to see you, because you're one of the few young guys. What are you, 40?
Almost 50.
Almost, no, you're still 40 though. You don't do anything in the world until you're 50. That's, I believe. I started.
I've done a lot already.
Yeah, but I'm saying mature. I know you've done a lot.
I know what you mean.
I'm talking about mature work.
Yes, yes.
Mature work is difficult. I'm saying until you're 50, you can't, no one can do mature work.
I think that's the reason I go back to Yale and also teaching, following you guys.
Yeah.
I remember at that time, you were like heroes, like proposing this really ambitious idea, theory, and proposals.
That's right.
Do you think now is a little changed? Like
there is nobody doing it now.
That? Yeah.
Nothing. Zero. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not the right time. When you're 50, you could be starting to think about doing that again. That's my feeling. 3, 4, 5 years from now will change. Right now is a very bad time. I just want to keep going because I feel enough energy to do that. What am I going to do? Sit around and... So I'm teaching, I'm writing, I'm thinking, and if I only want one little building to do, right? Not 20 big buildings. I think there are more architects. Look, 10 years ago, let's say, we never would have seen each other. It would not be interesting. But today it was interesting to see, right? And more Chinese are interested in interconnection. I have undergraduate students, I have graduate students, and they are excellent students. And if to be an architect like yourself, let's say, you have to have a passion for doing it. You have to have a spirit for doing it. You can't just.
Talking about this exhibition, I remember the MoMA one, they constructed.
Oh yeah,
That was a really. How old were you at that time?
88.
88.
88. I was 56.
56. Oh, that's
Okay.
4 years after 50.
A long time ago. But that exhibition put out of business postmodernism. Now look who was in that exhibition. Frank Gehry, Rem Koolhaas, Wolf Drix, me, Shumi, Zaha. Everybody was a star in that exhibition. And it was a really interesting exhibition.
Yeah. That's really.
Yeah, but you know what? How many years ago? That is 25 years ago.
No, that's 88. That's more than that. That's
35.
Yeah.
Sorry, 35. That's a long time.
Yes.
Time?
But everyone got the success after.
That's right.
Very influential.
Right.
At that moment, you were all like young architects.
Yeah, but I'm saying after that, you were going up, and now we're coming back up. Not me and the guys. Let's take we're in there. Zaha's dead, okay? Frank's very ill, not well, okay? Rem is more or less finished. Shumi, don't see much of Shumi. Peter is an old man. So it's there were 7 architects. All became very successful, and then when is the last time MoMA had a really interesting show? We don't go. I live right across the street from MoMA. We don't go. We have an exhibition right now at Princeton. My drawing collection.
Okay.
I have 100 drawings from Corbeau.
Do you still consider your architecture is avant-garde, like nowadays?
I don't think my architecture is avant-garde. My architecture is of the culture, not out of the avant-garde means before the culture. So it's of the culture. It's not out of the culture, in front of the culture. That's what I want you to read. The book called Lateness, because lateness is an idea of behind, not avant-garde, but derrière-garde, behind the guard.
Do you think New York is very important to you?
There's no architecture here. No. Where the architecture, there's in Berlin, in Milano too. If I'm gonna go and look at architecture, I go to Milano, to Berlino, London, maybe Paris, but not necessarily. But none. New York.
But you live here, and you're influential. Also, the exhibition we mentioned was in New York.
Yeah,
All these
but
people.
but the building, the developers don't build good buildings here. You have, what do we have? We have the Guggenheim Museum. One.
Yes, that's one.
Okay.
Central Park. It's great.
Very good. Central Park's great because that is real nature.
How do you like those pencil towers? The new,
Those
very skinny,
super tall.
very tall. That's unique, actually. You don't see
Now, let
those.
me ask you a question. What makes them architecture? Because they're tall? I mean, what makes them architecture? I've been asking my students that question. Please write a paragraph. Why a super tall is an... See, number one, if I'm talking about reality, to come down to the ground is going to be more crowded, more people trying to get a taxi. The big thing in New York, because now I don't go in the subway, I don't drive, I have to get a taxi to come here. If I come down a super tall, there are 20 people trying to get taxi at the same time. It's not possible. So awful. I don't mind the idea of a super tall, but maybe they should not be so super tall. I like the scale of Chicago. I think Chicago is a great city, by the way. That's one city I would go to. Why? Because it has Frank Lloyd Wright work, it has Louis Sullivan work, it has Skidmore work, Mies van der Rohe work.
You're still in New York. You like here.
You know, I like New York. I was born in New Jersey. New Jersey, an awful place, okay? Nothing in New Jersey. But I have lived my life in New York. Are we going to live in New Haven?
No.
Awful.
You're like those one of the Beijing people, like they live there forever, but they always complain about the city.
Yeah, no, I don't complain. I just don't think it's a very good city.
Yeah.
I took my students to LA so they could experience a different kind of city.
Yeah.
But when I travel, where do we travel? We go to Florence, Italy. We go to Milan. We go to see real architecture like Michelangelo, Palladio, the ones that really important to me as an architect. I don't think of you as Chinese. I don't think of myself as American. I don't represent a people. You don't represent Chinese. You are an architect, a good architect. If you continue to come to you should make a joint school with Yale. Great idea. There's going to be a new dean at Yale 2 years. You could be dean at Yale.
I should build less. I can do that.
No, you don't need to build. Why do you need to build a lot? That's another.
I heard you. Yeah.
You need maybe to build in your lifetime 5 great buildings.
Starting
Maybe,
from 50 years.
Yeah, 50. Let me ask you a question. How many buildings you think Le Corbusier did? Not that many, okay? How many great buildings did Venturi do? Not that many. How many did Aldo Rossi do? Not that many. You don't have to build so much. You have to be in a position, place where you can influence what you build and how you build and that kind of thing. If you became dean of Yale, your whole life would change in terms of the kinds of projects you would get, the importance of the projects culturally. So I would say, if I were in your position, your age, not believing in being Chinese or being American, I would go to be dean at Yale. My advice.
Good advice.
Huh? It's a good idea. Don't tell anybody.
We're on the camera. Everyone knows.
They're not going to tell anybody.
I like your feedback to Ma. I think it's very important for him at this certain moment. And he really built a lot.
Yes.
In the world, and he's super busy. But this is good maybe to have the reflections or really think about which way he should go in the next couple of years. And I like your very just like harsh critique about New York City.
No, it isn't harsh. I love it. Oh, no, don't get me wrong.
He loved the city, that's why he can.
I first of all, there's good food here. You can eat well in New York City, number one. There's good art here. What upsets me about New York, we have one of the major newspapers in the world, the New York Times. It's the only major newspaper in the world that doesn't have an architecture critic. No architecture critic in New York Times. That's absolutely terrible. There's no great newspaper that don't have an architecture critic. So that's one of the things. The culture of architecture doesn't exist.
Why don't you write?
Because
on the
I'm
newspaper?
now 92, and I don't write that well or easy. I know it takes me a long time. What I do is read.
So what do you think is the core spirit of neurosafety, the core spirit of the people here? Just like it's because for Chinese we think maybe it's the liberty or something. What do you feel as a New Yorker?
I think it's the mixing of culture, because we have a lot of European influence. We have good music that's European. We have good food that's European. We have good Chinese food. What's nice about New York, if at 11 o'clock at night I wake up and I say I want a bottle of milk,
Yeah.
I can go downstairs
Yeah.
it's always open, the
Convenience.
bottle of milk, right? I want a piece of cheese or coffee. Anytime I can get it. New York is easy. It's not difficult. First of all, I can't get up and down stairs too well. But the public transport, we got the subway, the buses, we have the private cars, taxis. I like New York. It's fine.
Can I ask one more question? One
Sure.
last question. So it's more towards the Chinese architecture community. So you just mentioned that like architects should have their own passion towards architecture.
Yes.
But right now, China is kind of like, especially in the architecture community, they are experiencing kind of like the Great Depression. They don't get enough projects, and the architecture school, they cannot recruit enough students, and not so many people, they are excited about this major anymore. So it's really slowing down.
Here's the thing. All culture is cyclical. That it goes.
Yes.
It can't always stay up. It goes down.
Yeah.
We're in a down period. Everybody, what you're describing is true. Everybody agrees that it's a bad time for architecture. Okay? The reason is there's no Philip Johnson. There's no I.M. Pei. There's no Jim Sterling. There's no Aldo Rossi. There's no Rem Koolhaas, really. There's no Rafa Moneo. There's no anybody, okay? When will he becomes a leader, you have to build slowly back up, because it's nothing. No one is doing... How many people come to interview me? Zero, okay? So he's really unusual. I'm very happy. Nice to talk with somebody. Doesn't mean it's going up yet, but it'll go back when he's 50s.
Next year.
Yeah. 1 year, one more year to go.
No, that's not that. Just
Next year.
But what about those ordinary architects? They are kind of suffering because of this Great Depression. They're
I'm
kind
not-
of lost.
I mean, architects suffering. So what? Hey, to be good, you have to suffer. Just how many projects that we lost that were really useful projects? As many as I built about 30 projects. I've lost 30 that are good projects. That's why unbuilt. So you lose some. You can't win every competition. It's not a good time. The clients are not right. They have no spirit. Since COVID, the occupancy of buildings has gone way down. We live in a very prestige building in Manhattan, across from Museum of Modern Art, called Rockefeller Apartments, built by MoMA in the 30s, okay? Our building has 110 units, okay? 40 are occupied. There's no need for building right now. There's no desire for space. People are working at home. People are, restaurants are closing down. There's not enough energy in the system.
Oh, Liu, there's a gift for you.
Ah,
A bottle.
oh, look at that. That's nice. I like Louis Roederer. Thank you.
Because you're very influential to me, and your good birthday. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you. It's great.
上次你就给我什么建议？90多，太牛了。
你觉得你80-90的时候在干嘛？
你能活到那会儿吗？我不但活着，而且状态很好，思考啊，什么的，经历啊。
感觉就是说，其实对建筑的思考跟建筑一样重要，甚至前者对他也是更重要。
我早意识到，但是这个不代表你停下来实践，然后只是思考，你能思考出什么东西来？就看你还也理论啊这些也没有太多成就，所以有点害怕，疯狂的干活有点害怕。
所以他说要过午式吧。
嗯，
有些可能有些东西自然就随着时间就
你
出来。
同意他说的吗？过50。
同意啊。我可能早一点，